We would like to extend our thanks to the Taoiseach, the government and the people of Ireland for the enormous contribution you have made to the international struggle for the isolation of apartheid South Africa.
Still the children know the story of that man.
And it would not be out of place on this occasion to encourage all parties in the Northern Ireland peace process to resolve all matters required for the implementation of the Good Friday Agreement.
It was 25 years ago this very day.
It is my honor to declare the 2003 Special Olympics Summer World Games officially open.
Now, many people have spoken over the last 24 hours about the impact Nelson Mandela has had on their lives. And here in Ireland, he inspired a group of Dunnes Stores workers to take a stand against apartheid. And one of those workers joins us now. Would you welcome, please, Mary Manning, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Mary. We need to go back to July of 1984. You were working in Dunnes. Was it Henry Street?
Henry Street, yeah.
And what happened? When did you first get an inkling that something was going on with this?
Well, we'd had the policy from the union, and the day that the strike actually started, I was sitting on registers with management behind us, and saw this woman coming up, and I could see in her basket she had 2 grapefruit, South African grapefruit.
And what was the policy?
Policy had been passed that we were going to boycott South African goods. So the people of South Africa had asked for a boycott of the goods.
Yes.
So we were following it through the union.
Okay. So this lady came with her basket.
Yeah. And she was kind of hovering between himself and Alma was hitting, and I was thinking, go down the gun.
You didn't want that responsibility. Okay.
But she didn't. She came to me and I said that I couldn't handle the goods because it was a union policy and we were following the union policy. And she just said, okay. And because they had put management behind us,
yes,
a manager came over and said to me, close your register, and up to the office then. Myself and Karen, who was the shop steward.
Okay.
And they gave us 5 minutes to think about it, but they took Karen off to one room and I was in another room. And then they asked, well, we're going to continue. And I said yes. And she said, well, then it's indefinitely suspended.
And so began the strike?
Yeah.
And how many of you went on strike?
There was 10 of us all together in Henry Street, and then one guy in Crumlin, Brendan, came out about a year after.
Okay, it was national and indeed international news, but let's just remind ourselves of the national news story that broke around that time. Have a look at this.
3 months ago, a 20-year-old cashier at Dunnes Stores in Henry Street, Dublin, said she wouldn't handle South African fruit because of the treatment of blacks in the country. She was suspended. 12 of her colleagues joined her on the picket line. They are also refusing to handle South African fruit.
We had got a union instruction not to handle South African goods, and when we all decided, the girls were out on strike here now, and some of the girls who were in work and decided that we wouldn't handle the goods. And when I refused to handle them, the rest of the girls had been refusing to handle them as well, but there's a man dressed behind my register when I actually refused, and I was brought up to the office and told I was given a few minutes to think about what I was after doing, and I didn't change my mind, and then they suspended me then indefinitely until I came back in and handled the goods.
So did people know why you were striking at the time? Did they understand?
No, I mean, in fairness, we didn't understand either.
Yeah.
I mean, we were following a policy. We had to literally go around and look in the store to see what was from South Africa, so we'd know what we weren't supposed to be handling. It was only when we were on the picket line that we started to realise what was happening over there. And it made us really, like, it went from being just a union policy, which would have left us out there for probably a couple of days or a week or two, to staying out there for as long as we did.
Yeah. And the story gained momentum then, and you striked for how long in total?
We were 2 years and 9 months.
It's a long time, to be honest. You wouldn't hear of it nowadays.
No,
it's just unheard of. And what was the impact then on South Africa? Were you aware, or were they aware of what you were doing? Were the people struggling for that?
Yeah, well, we had people coming up onto the picket line to after a week or so, and then we had people like Nimrod Sjaka, who was an exile from South Africa, and he was in contact with South Africa, so he was able to relay some of the information back, so they knew the strike was going on.
Yeah, and do you remember well when Nelson Mandela walked to freedom?
I do, yeah. I remember watching it on TV. That was, yeah. it was a great moment.
Yeah, it was. And I think you played a small but significant part in what we've been seeing and reading about today. So congratulations in that many years later. And I'm sure you've been thinking about Nelson Mandela today and his passing.
Yeah, it's very sad. When I heard it last night, although he'd been sick for a long time, it was still very sad to hear it. And he was a great man, and it was just, to lose a man like that, it's a big hole in the world, I think.
I think it's very eloquently put. And thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thanks,
Mary Manning, ladies and gentlemen.